Ode on Imitations of Immortality is generally regarded as Wordsworth's finest poem, or at least one of them. It's one of his relatively longer ones. It tends to articulate his aesthetic vision more than just about any other. In it, he returns to his to one of his favorite genres, or one of his favorite topics, which is childhood, and the use of childhood as a device for poetic imagination. He begins by quoting himself from recollections of early childhood. "The child is father of the man, and I could wish my days to be bound each to each by natural piety." That's one of his earlier lyrics, of course. And it sort of keys in on the special place that childhood as a topic holds for him. And then he begins with the idea of nature and childhood being connected and accessed through memory as essentially as a tool. There was a time when meadow, grove, and stream, the earth and every common sight to me did seem apparelled in celestial light. The glory and the freshness of a dream, it is not now as it has been of yore. Turn wheresoever I may, by night or day, the things which I have seen I can now see no more. The idea that something is lost. The things that I have seen I can now see no more. It is something that is lost, that is special, that he can only access through his memory, which is already a kind of, it's a way to bring it close, but also a reminder that it is distant, that it is lost. Apparelled, it did seem to me apparelled in celestial light. Can a light from God dim? I'm not sure. It poses all of these recurrent themes. It's one of the early stanzas in this poem that deal most explicitly with childhood, and it's front-loading the argument right there. Stanza 2, "The rainbow comes and goes, and lovely is the rose. The moon doth with delight look round her when the heavens are bare. Waters on a starry night are beautiful and fair. The sunshine is a glorious birth, but I know wherever I go that there hath passed away a glory from the earth." Again, loss. Something has been lost. "Now while the birds thus sing a joyous song, and while the young lambs bound, as to the tabor's sound, to me alone there seems a thought of grief. A timely utterance gave that thought relief, and I again am strong. The cataracts blow their trumpets from the steep. No more shall grief of mine the seasons wrong. I hear the echoes through the mountains throng. The winds come to me through the fields of sheep, and all the earth is gay. Land and sea give themselves up to jollity, and with the heart of May doth every beast keep holiday. Thou, child of joy, shout round me, hear thy shouts, thou happy shepherd boy." The reference to shepherd boy, of course, is the pastoral tradition. Kind of throughout this stanza, you get that theme of pastoralism. I again am strong. The restoration that comes through contact with nature. No more shall grief of mine the seasons wrong. He is somewhat immune from, or his emotions have recourse to nature and this kind of restorative effect. "Ye blessed creatures, I have heard the call. Ye to each other make I see. The heavens laugh with you in your jubilee. My heart is at your festival. My head hath its coronal. The fullness of your bliss I feel it all. O evil day, if I were sullen. With earth herself is adorning this sweet May morning, and the children are culling on every side. In 1,000 valleys far and wide, fresh flowers, while the sun shines warm, and the babe leaps up on his mother's arm. I hear, with joy I hear, but there's a tree of many one, a single field which I have looked upon, doth of them speak of something that is gone. The pansy at my feet doth the same tale repeat. Whither is fled the visionary gleam? Where it is now the glory and dream." 5. Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. Very important. Our birth is just a sleep and a forgetting. Somehow time in this world is a separation from the eternal. Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. The soul that rises with us, our life star, hath had elsewhere its setting, and cometh from afar, not in entire forgetfulness and not in utter nakedness, but trailing clouds of glory do we come from God, who is our home. Heaven lies about us in our infancy. Shadows of the prison house begin to close upon the growing boy. But he beholds the light, and whence it flows, he sees it in his joy. The youth who daily farther from the east must travel still is nature's priest, and by the vision splendid is on the way attended. At length the man perceives it die away and fade into the light of common day. The children are special. They are protected. They are immune somehow. They are born perfect, and the world sullies them. That is the romantic vision. 6. Stanzas are getting shorter. They're becoming more irregular as it goes along. Earth fills her lap with pleasures of her own, yearning she hath in her own natural kind, and even with something of a mother's mind, and no unworthy aim. The homely nurse doth all she can to make her foster child, her inmate man, forget the glories he hath known, and that imperial palace whence he came, imperial palace of heaven, whence he came. Behold the child among his newborn blisses, a 6 years darling of a pygmy size. See where mid-work of his own land he lies, fretted by sallies of his mother's kisses, with light upon him and his father's eyes. See at his feet some little plan or chart, some fragment of his dream of human life, shaped by himself with newly learned art. A wedding or a funeral, a mourning or a wedding or a festival, a mourning or a funeral, and this hath now his heart, and unto this he frames his song, that he will fit his tongue to dialogues of business, love, or strife. But it will not be long ere this be thrown aside, and with new joy and pride the little actor cons another part, filling from time to time his humorous stage with all the persons down to Palsy's age that life brings with her in her equipage, as if his whole vocation were endless imitation. A child plays at life. A child plays at growing up. This is another it's another theme of all the world's a stage, if you will, that it is a kind of game and children are playing at it, but over time the game gets much harder to bear and leaves more of a mark. Number 8, thou whose exterior semblance doth belie thy soul's immensity, thou best philosopher, a child, a best philosopher, who yet dost keep thy heritage, thou eye among the blind, that deaf and silent reads the eternal deep, haunted forever by the eternal mind, mighty prophet, seer blessed, on whom those truths do rest, which we are toiling all our lives to find, in darkness lost, the darkness of the grave. Thou, over whom thy immortality broods like the day, a master or a slave, a presence which is not to be put by, to whom the grave is but a lonely bed without a sense or sight of day or the warm light, a place of thought where we in waiting lie. Thou little child, yet glorious in the might of heaven-born freedom on thy being's height, why with such earnest pains dost thou provoke the years to bring the inevitable yoke? Thus blindly with thy blessedness at strife, full soon thy soul shall have her earthly fright, and custom lie upon thee with a weight heavy as frost and deep almost as life. Well, you know, the life or adulthood, growing up, is a kind of yoke. Maturity is a burden. Why with such earnest pains dost thou provoke the years to bring the inevitable yoke? Well, why grow up? That's a Peter Pan attitude. Why lose that special kiss of heaven, that special status of being perfect, as if it's in the power of the child to slough it off. But perhaps through poetry, you can retain it and keep it sharp. O joy that in our embers is something that doth live, that nature yet remembers what was so fugitive, that thought of our past years in me doth breed perpetual benediction, not indeed, for that which is most worthy to be blessed, delight and liberty, the simple creed of childhood, whether busy or at rest. With new-fledged hope still fluttering in his breast, not for these I rise, the song of thanks and praise, but for those obstinate questionings of sense and outward things, fallings from us, vanishings, blank misgivings of a creature moving about in worlds not realized, high instincts before which our mortal nature did tremble like a guilty thing surprised. But for those first affections, those shadowy recollections, which, be they what they may, are yet the fountain light of all our day, and yet a master light of all our seeing, uphold us, cherish, and have power to make our noisy years seem moments in the being of the eternal service, truths that wake to perish never, immortality, which neither listless nor mad endeavor, nor man nor boy, nor all that is at enmity with joy can utterly abolish or destroy. Hence, in a season of calm weather, though inland far we be, our souls have sight of that immortal sea which brought us hither, can in a moment travel thither, and see the children sport upon the shore, and hear the mighty waters rolling evermore. You can retain that essence of childhood if it is a conscious action. Then sing, ye birds, sing, sing a joyous song, and let the young lambs bound as to your tabor's sounds. More pastoralism. Tabor, it's a tambourine, like, sort of. Yet we in thought will join your thong, that ye that pipe and ye that play, ye that thoughts, that ye that through your hearts today feel the gladness of the May. Very pastoral, very simplistic, very childish in its simple rhyme scheme and simple meter, very primitive. Primitivism is a romantic fetish. What though the radiance which was once so bright be now forever taken from my sight, though nothing can bring back the hour of splendor in the grass, great movie, of glory in the flower, we will grieve not, rather find strength in what remains behind. It's the compensations for lost youth. You cannot retain the glory of the flower, the splendor of the grass. We will grieve not, rather find strength in what remains behind. There is going to be a little essence there that if we pay attention to it, we can cling to it and retain it for our own use. In the primal sympathy which having been must ever be, in the soothing thoughts that spring out of human suffering, in the faith that looks through death, in years that bring the philosophic mind. Maturity. And oh, ye fountains, meadows, hills, and groves, forebode not any severing of our loves. Yet in my heart of hearts I feel your might. I only have relinquished one delight, to live beneath your more habitual sway. I love the brooks which down their channels fret, even more than when I trip lightly as they. The innocent brightness of a newborn day is lovely yet. The clouds that gather round the setting sun do take a sober coloring of an eye that hath kept watch over man's mortality. Another race hath been, and other palms are won. Thanks to the human heart by which we live, thanks to the tenderness, its joys and fears, to me the meanest flower that blows can give thoughts that do often lie too deep for tears. Nature is the great subject. Nature is what he will write about. Nature is what he will use to access his poetic essence so that he can create great art. the clouds that gather in the setting sun as he matures and gets older do take a sober coloring from the eye that hath kept watch over man's mortality. When these thoughts of mortality and death, maturity if nothing else, start crowding in, he knows what to do now. Thanks to the human heart by which we live, thanks to its tenderness, its joys and fears, to me the meanest flower that blows can give thoughts that do often lie too deep for tears. The meanest flower, the smallest increment of nature, the smallest essence of beauty in the world, he will cling to and milk it for everything he can to find joy, to find philosophical repose, to find some sense of decency in the world, and yes, to find art, to find a way to create poetry, to write, to live in a kind of strained ecstasy, sieved through those memories of nature. Wordsworth. Oof.